These are a few of my favorite things. Run, write, riff. Merging fitness, personal creativity, and your ultimate passion. Key parts for a happy and a healthy life. Hit the subscribe button and then the bell notification to be a part of this community. Leave a comment on your fitness, your personal creativity, and on your passions. We want to hear from you. This is about living a full life. Body, mind, spirit. Run, write, riff. What's going on in our entertainment today? There have always been critics, even among fans, and the internet gives greater power to more people than ever. Generally, that's a good thing. Yet fan outcry seems to be more intense. Why? Let's explore what was, what is, and ultimately what can be. It shifted in the Golden Age, a formula-driven era from the 1920s to the 1950s. This was when the studio system existed. So the formula was key, a seamless method of storytelling. That doesn't mean a template, as if everything fits within the same boilerplate. It's a specific structure, like a sentence must be formed to make any sense. This structure for storytelling has been recognized across geographic and language barriers for centuries. Imagine that. Structure is a necessary requirement for anything. It's the same with a story. Beyond that, these professionals in the golden era knew making movies was a business, and they treated it as such. Of course, the studio system ended via antitrust litigation. Yes, it was a sweet financial deal for 5 major studios to control everything. I'm not suggesting that was the best arrangement. I'm merely addressing storytelling. In the aftermath, the ability to create entertainment became fractured on the financial side. Risk became paramount. Next was the post-classic cinema era. This is when independent filmmakers arose with backing from banks and financial institutions. The industry turned to stellar film school grads: Spielberg, Coppola, De Palma, Lucas. And big budget blockbusters produced some of the most successful movie franchises in history. Based on current stats, those are: number 1, the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Number 2, Star Wars, followed by Harry Potter. Next, the long-running James Bond series, and 5th, The Lord of the Rings. It's telling that today's fans know all these franchises. Despite this glowing box office success in the most recent decades, it seems great stories are no more. Even the ones we just listed can't seem to carry forward with the same success. Again, the question, why? The great stories resonated because they adhered to the formula, initially referred to as the monomyth, what became known as the hero's journey. It's no accident this storytelling formula from Joseph Campbell, borrowed from centuries-old themes, was foundational to the work of the independent filmmakers mentioned just before. George Lucas, creator of Star Wars, studied directly under Joseph Campbell, who called Lucas his greatest student. These filmmakers created worlds and merged characters to give audiences an escape that entertained. Basically, the stories made sense. Deviating from the proven path was risky. If done well, it might be hailed. Yet more often, it failed. As a result, this big budget era also produced some colossal busts. Sometimes the financial failures went beyond poor plot or shallow stories. Marketing mistakes happened. Often, those holding the purse strings stymied creativity. Let's step back into the year 2012. The first film to analyze is based on a soaring classic by Edgar Rice Burroughs. This author's credentials might be considered unmatched, as he is the creator of the Tarzan stories. Yet he is widely acclaimed for science fiction. His Mars tales had been sought by Hollywood for decades. Still, the power of Disney could not effectively bring one of his classic works to the screen successfully. The Princess of Mars story was produced under the rather ordinary name of John Carter. Now, I found this film entertaining. That's just me. I'm a fan of Taylor Kitsch. And it was directed by Andrew Stanton, who had success heading Pixar films, A Bug's Life, and the entire Nemo series. Yet it's considered one of the great failures. Many have attributed this to a combination of screenwriting and marketing blunders. Perhaps it's one of many that drew from stellar stories in the literary arena only to fail in the adaptation. Next, we advance to Q1 of 2013 for two movies with quite similar support. Each was a reboot attempt, special effects focused, with strong casts. Yet one is considered a flop, while the other would only be deemed financially successful as a cult classic. Both of these 2013 examples were old fairy tales told with dark undertones, which could have been rich ground. Perhaps they lacked originality while trying too hard to be just that. Released in January 2013, Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters starred Jeremy Renner, Gemma Arterton, and Famke Janssen. With a $50 million budget, critics panned this film. That included a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes. They claimed it failed as both a sci-fi film and as a parody. Apparently, they were unsure which it intended to be. Still, it's considered a cult classic with $226 million in box office receipts. Released in February of 2013, Jack the Giant Slayer also had a great cast against a much larger $220 million budget. It featured Ewan McGregor and Nicholas Hoult, as well as Stanley Tucci, Ian McShane, and Bill Nye. Though critics preferred this film, scoring a much better 53% on Rotten Tomatoes, they also called it bland and impersonal. It's considered a flop, making $198 million at the box office. We could add weight to the overall point by including the epic series from Stephen King, whose magnum opus, his words, not mine, The Dark Tower, was a poorly adapted film. The entertainment industry seems to have lost its way, no longer willing to create original stories. They often go for safer options like remakes or reboots, which consistently seem to fail. Even when they have great material to pull from by renowned authors, they somehow manage to muck it up. Why? Well, that's the $100 million question. Much of the time, failed stories either separate from the classic methods, injecting politics or other social constructs, or they attempt to merely rehash, as if that would guarantee success. They've lost sight of purpose, what the industry refers to as themes. Failed stories rarely establish any rules that are the foundation for these themes, or they violate their own rules with impunity for some secondary purpose. As Curly taught us nearly 30 years ago, there is just one theme, one purpose. The ad community where I cut my teeth would say if you attempt to have more than one message, then you have no message. So they recycle and they reboot. Perhaps they believe it's easier. The examples shared from 2012 and 2013, even the 2017 bomb made from one of Stephen King's greatest works, they prove this approach is decidedly not easier, and it's certainly not working. Whatever the cause, our entertainment has suffered. What are the answers? What can be in storytelling? Risk. Manageable risk. Many of the risks taken of late have been bad ones. Easy to say now because the results bear this out. Instead, innovate if you hope to do something great. But please get back to the classic methods of building worlds and establishing characters. No hollow protagonists. Make them earn it. No meandering plots. Follow your own rules. Start with a purpose, just one. Something believable to engage the audience. It needs to be a message that connects. No preaching, no politics. Do this and the passion will follow. Perhaps then, so will the audience. Next up on this channel, we'll jump back into the riff realm to see what the young rock star, aka Reece Alan, is doing. I promise it's very cool. We'll update, maybe even get a few words, interview style, from the young lad himself. Let's see if the rock star is rising. That covers the riff category. Here's a snapshot of coming videos in the run and the write categories. On the run side, it's time to race. Jump into a hot little 5K and see how fast I can spin them. Nerves, doubt, anxiety, same thing we all go through in competition. Let's see what I can do. Then, when we get back to the right side, we'll go deeper on my own opus, 2323 AD. It's time to meet some of the key characters. We'll start with the protagonist, then the main antagonist. Yes, there's more than one. And we'll cover important members of our lead character's family. There's plenty of friction underneath, as well as just enough support. We've got a lot of ground to cover. Let's get to it. Once again, be sure to hit subscribe and then the bell notification. That will keep you up to date on all the videos that we have coming. Be sure to give us a like on this video, as it will really help us to build this channel. Come along on this journey with us. And, as always, thanks for watching. A happy and a healthy life. That's what we're about at Run, Write, Riff. These are my personal passions. Be sure to leave a comment about your passions. Let's engage and share life.